What is up, guys? So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to react to the brutal prison documentary called Gladiator Days, a Troy Kell story. And it's a great insight into the prison life of a young man, a kid called Troy Kell, who ended up getting lifed off at a very young age. Him and his mates got into it with some paedophile on the streets. I think the pedo was messing with his girlfriend or something. So they took him out into the desert and killed him and dumped him in the desert. He ended up getting caught and he got lifed off while he was a teenager. And so it's just documenting his life, what he had to go through. Because imagine coming to prison on a life sentence as a fresh teenager looking like he'd just come out of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. He's going to have all kinds of problems. So it is a brutal documentary. He ended up, him and his mate, kidnapping a black guy and stabbed him like over 200 times or something. They pinned him down and it's all on video. So it is a nasty documentary, but it's a great insight into the reality of prison life. So yeah, let's get into it.
Ball wax, and they're going to test you.
One incident, I ended up getting...
See, this is Troy Kell, right? This guy here is the guy who kind of like showed Troy Kell the ropes, what it's like, what to expect in prison, how to act and all that sort of thing. And then the next guy is Troy Kell. And you can tell straight away he looks really young.
Extortionist and the whole ball of wax, and they're going to test you.
One incident, I ended up getting shot and stuff like that on the yard. And
see, that's what they do in America. They don't do that in the UK. But in America, they shoot you with rubber bullets or sandbags.
With a guy that was a notorious booty bandit.
Booty bandit. You don't really get them in England. You do get now and again, but it's pretty rare. But in America, you know, if you get some old timer that's been in prison for like 20 years, and then some young guy like this, looking fresh, comes into prison, he's going to want to take them cheeks. And if you let him, then everybody will take your cheeks. So you have to make an example.
It was an older guy, a black guy, I can't even remember his name. Homosexual predator.
I was 19 and this guy was in his late 40s, and we were on the yard, and it came to either, you know, he says, if you want respect, you're going to have to come and get some respect.
And that's pretty much how it works in prison. If you let somebody take advantage of you and you don't stand up for yourself, then everybody will take advantage of you. You have to earn your respect, and you have to at least show that you're willing to fight.
So I had to make sure that that wasn't going to be tolerated. That meant that you battled for it. They break it up by shooting rounds at you from the waist. It's called skip rounding. I mean, it stopped the fight. It blew me off my feet, you know, because I mean, you're getting shot by a 12-gauge shotgun from like 30 feet away. So it blew me off my feet, and you know, the fight was over after that.
And fighting in prison, it's not like fighting on the streets. Like, if on the streets, if two dudes get into it, you know, there'll be a lot of shouting and screaming, and everybody's jumping in and pulling them back, and they might throw a couple little punches and fall on the floor, and then everybody runs away. But it's not like that in prison. In prison, you're locked in a cell with the dude, and you have to bang it out bare-fisted. Or you can go in the showers, but, you know, there's water all over the floors, and you'll be slipping all over, because they're the only places that aren't cameraed up. So the best thing to do is go into the cell, lock the door. But the thing is, if you go into a cell with someone, you get knocked out, then anything can happen. I've seen guys get their heads smashed off the toilet, the porcelain toilet. I'll never forget that wet thumping sound it made. Doo, doo, you know, of an unconscious guy getting his head smashed off. And I've seen guys coming in the cell while there's a guy knocked out on the floor, standing on the bunk bed and jumping off, landing on his head, and you just think, fucking hell, there's no way he's going to survive that. It's mental, so it's a lot different to fighting on the streets. See, This is Hedgehog Man on steroids. Now this is his accomplice, the guy who he killed the black guy with, and it looks like he's having a bit of a riot here.
When I arrived at prison, I came to prison for forgery. I forged a $300 check. That's what I was in prison for. I was serving a sentence of a 1 to 15. I wasn't placed in like a minimum security prison for forgers.
And you'll see that, especially in the American prison, somebody will go to prison for a simple charge, like a shoplifting, but they have to join a gang. They don't really do that in England, although you do tend to stick to your own race. You know, all the white guys will stick together, all the Muslims will stick together, all the black guys, but it's not enforced, it's not mandatory. But in America, you have to do that. You have to join a gang, otherwise you're just going to get terrorized. And then when you do join the gang, you have to take people out. You know, if your gang says, right, this guy over here, you've got to go and stab him, and then you don't go and stab him, then you're going to get stabbed. But then if you do go and stab him, you're going to get lifed off. And if you don't, you're going to get killed. So, you know what I mean? It's an unfortunate situation to be in.
In a super maximum security
Which is exactly what happened to this guy. Came to prison for forgery, and now he's doing life for killing a black guy.
Murderers.
Eric Daniels was a co-defendant to Troy Kell, and in fact...
This is the video. This is the brutal video. You don't see it just yet, but that's a black guy. He's on his back, so he can't move, and Troy Kell's stabbing him up with a knife or a shank.
During the homicide that laid across the victim's
see him there
leg,
stabbing him
to
everywhere.
incapacitate the victim from moving.
Fucking brutal,
the ironic
mate.
thing, had been sent to prison on a 0 to 5, somewhat minimal forgery case, where he had actually taken a check from a local sheriff here, which was his first mistake, and then forged the sheriff's name on this check. Not a bright idea. Sent him to prison for 0 to 5. So Rick Daniels went from a small-time crook to never going to see the light of day outside of a prison again.
Here I am, a forger, living on...
And you do kind of like live the prison life. You might go to prison like me. I'm the nicest guy in the world. But when you get to prison, you have to change. You have to do, you know, when in Rome's, do what Romans do. And you have to stand up for yourself. And you'll find yourself hating the system. If somebody tests you, like, who are you fucking talking to, you little muppet? You know what I mean? You become a prisoner.
Bro, I was interacting and recreating with 3 guys that had death sentences that were going to be executed within the next 3 or 4 years, and I'm in prison on forgery. That's how I ended up becoming involved in violent situations.
And then you end up rioting because that's the only time they listen. Little things like not getting your mail, or if you order something on the canteen and they take the money out but they don't give you the thing what you've paid for, and then you'll go to the screw and say, yeah, the aunt sent me this, and he'll say, oh yeah, I'll get into it, and then he doesn't, you know, he's not bothered. They don't listen until you start rioting and smashing and kicking toilets off of walls and things like that. That's when they listen. So that's when you end up with riots like this. I've never been involved in a prison riot, but I was aware of one whilst I was in prison in Doncatraz, and all the screws were running around trying to get up for the wing because all the inmates were rioting. And there was always this notorious story of this one screw running around with sponge and custard pudding on his head. Somebody dumped a pudding on his head and he was running around with a bowl on his head trying to get up for the wing. Well, that's why people riot in prison, because you get people that shit up, doing dirty protests, cover themselves in poo, just to make the screws listen, just to get what you want, you know.
I felt my only avenue for relief was to lash out against the authority, and that's how I became involved with the riot.
Yeah, you start hating the screws because they're the ones locking you up, even though they're just doing the jobs. You realise that when you get older, but when you're a young idiot like this guy, you fall into it, you know.
Tell me nothing yet, and we got a deal. Until they fucking fulfill their part of the deal, we ain't racking in. Regardless.
You feel slighted by the system because you're there in the first place, okay? And then that builds, okay? And that anger turns into resentment and then absolute bitterness.
We want our fucking mail. Sorry, guys.
Say that all this is just because he ain't got his mail. Little things like that just get blown way out of proportion. God, it looks like Hedgehog Man, doesn't it? And the thing is, what happens when a riot goes down, the screws will lock themselves in the bubble, it's called in Doncaster. But it's all different. It's different in every jail. They'll lock themselves in a room so the inmate can't get to them. But there's always a way to get to them, you know. There's only a big door in the way. But if you pick up a big door, you'll be able to smash that door in. Unless, of course, Brian Cockrell's there, then he can just kick it off the hinges.
See, that was impressive.
See, that door is a reinforced door. But if you're bashing it in with another reinforced door, it's going to give way. They're not going to break that. They are.
Attention, all inmates in Cedar Section 1. Return to your cells now, or extreme force will be used against you. Return to your cells now and lock up, or force will be used against you.
Yeah, it's coming through, then.
They're going to break that door. Yeah, they are. No. The taps are coming off.
Hey, they're gonna take this over here.
Okay, now what? They're gonna do?
Teleport has been breached.
SWAT.
Can you guys get up
Echo
there?
102. Echo 102, one of the Sally Port section door has been breached.
You start to think that the officer that's holding you there, the one that comes and feeds you your tray every day, is evil. First thing that comes to most people's minds is lash out, do something violent.
Back up, dude, back up. Get out of that hole.
Water's off.
Oh, yeah.
Much more. Get this damn thing turned over.
Another thing, what they used to do as well, what I've seen, I was on the wing when it happened, was taking the nurse hostage so they can get to the medicine tray. Because what they used to do is, a nurse would come round with the medicine and you would get brought out your cell, took up to the nurse, and she'd give you your medicine. And if you get somebody who's crazy, who comes to prison, who's rattling from drugs, detoxing from drugs, nowadays it's not too bad because they give you like methadone and Subutex, but back then they didn't give you anything. So, you know, they start thinking, well, if I can kidnap that nurse, I can get to that meds trolley, then I can get my own medication. And I saw that happen twice. You know, they got in there, got all the Valium, and just smashed the thing up. Desperation. Solitary. Oh my god. When you're in solitary, fuck off.
By yourself, you have no television, no...
I thought I'd gone off then. When you're in solitary, you start losing your mind. You start seeing things that aren't there. Because it is literally solitary. There's nothing there, just a big concrete tomb with a bed in it and a toilet in it. That is it. And you start losing your mind 23 hours a day in there. You know, the days seem like weeks, and you start seeing things that aren't there, little things scurrying across the floor. I had to find a way to occupy my mind, you know, walking around the cell, counting your paces. Or what I used to do is I used to think of people on the wing and think of ways to make fun of them, you know, like little bits of banter, like take what he looks like and make jokes about it. And I'd just be sat there in the corner of the cell laughing my head off, you know, being on my own. If a screw looked through, it'd be like, what the fuck's up with him? He's just sat there manically laughing.
You know, very little contact with the outside world. You develop different symptoms of mental illnesses.
That's true.
Paranoid, schizophrenic, anxiety disorders, impulsive behaviors.
That might be why I struggle with anxiety now, because of all the times spent sat in a prison cell.
You have absolutely nothing to do in there all day long. I plotted and planned on what I was going to do to the administration when I got out of there.
And that's what some people do, you know. I'd sit in there thinking of jokes and banter and just laugh to myself, because luckily I'm hilarious. But you get people like this that resent being in there and think, right, when I get out, you're fucking getting it. And that's when people get hurt. They attacked a
I
prison
threw some
guard.
urine and some feces on her because I couldn't do anything else to her. I couldn't get my hands on her, and so I that was the next best thing. It made me feel on top of the world to see her running out of the unit, screaming her head off with feces in her hair and her.
Imagine that, getting shit and piss. It's not just like have a shit and stick it in the face. It's put it in a bucket, mix it up, let it stew for a week, and then throw it in the face. I mean, just imagine going in the mouth, their eyes, and then they might get hepatitis or some sort of disease. It's nasty. You'd probably rather have a whooping than get that done to you. And yeah, that was Troy Kell's accomplice in the murder when they killed this black guy. That's his dad talking about it. And that's him, that's the guy that got stabbed. He was a bit of a nasty cunt himself, He was known for violence and beating people up. So, you might say it's karma, but it's fucking brutal the way he went.
Robbery, had some violent tendencies in Arkansas, and in
I think he might have
fact
been a wrong as well.
Assaults on guards in Arkansas, committed assaults on inmates in Arkansas.
And you live by the sword.
I don't want to paint a pretty picture of my brother because he was a maximum security risk, is what he told me, and I found out after his death that he was in lockdown.
Originally, we didn't have any idea why the killing took place. As we got into the case more and more, and we did more investigation, one of the more startling aspects of the case was that this was really just some racial hatred. The comments that Troy Kell made immediately after the killing.
And that tends to be what they do in America. It's like the Pecker Woods stick together. The Woods, that's the white guys. The fucking Chicanos, which is the Mexicans, the Bloods, the Crips. And yeah, you have to join a gang in America. You don't really do that in England.
And that he was really quite proud of himself, that, that this black person would no longer be around.
It breeds racism.
And talk about white women.
That's proper racism, not that nonsense what you've got in England now where you talk about Islam and you're a racist. That's just fucking nonsense. This is racism.
Like that he was really
swastikas
and that there was one less African American on the earth, and that was
attitudes like that.
I would classify myself as a separatist. I believe that the white man should return to Europe and should have never came over here. Throughout history, if you see the Greeks or the Romans or any civilization that started, the Egyptians, that started to intermingle with foreigners, in a sense, outsiders of their racial groups, eventually they've destroyed themselves.
Right, isn't that funny? That's what's happening with the Muslims now, with Islam. I mean, it's just happened in Australia, it's happened in England.
As we delved into the case, we found out fairly quickly that Troy Kell had very strong beliefs as a white supremacist. The white supremacist group or gang, if you want to call them that, is significant and probably the most significant single group or gang we've got in our prison.
Prison has a tendency to, force an individual, someone who's impressionable as I was, young, to identify with a group and or a certain ideology. And I found that in the white separatist movement. And I felt like I belonged. I felt like I climbed a mountain, reached, got to the top, planted the flag, and I was home.
It's born out of fear.
That's true.
Fear of...
Fear of getting fucking stabbed in the neck. Fear of getting shot in Australia.
Another race. Keeping your distance from another race.
With any kind of white guy that stands up for, his people, he's looked upon as some type of racist.
Isn't that funny? That is so interesting, this is like 20 years ago.
Race hater. And That's not the case. And the majority of the people.
Do you hate Jews?
No, it doesn't concern me at all. I mean, maybe people's actions is what I don't like. I mean, they might choose to do certain things, but there's more, white people that need adjusting than anybody else.
So that's just bang on, isn't it?
In preparation for the case, and primarily the sentencing portion of the case, I went out to Nevada, where, of course, Troy was housed as an inmate for years.
Well, that's 20 minutes, so we're not going to see the video of him actually stabbing the dude. Well, it'll probably be tomorrow. Yeah, I'll do the second part of this tomorrow. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted. I don't think I will, because this is an illegal website, so it's not a YouTube video. But anyway, if you like this video, press the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll do the part 2 tomorrow, which has got the gruesome bit in it. Bonjour.